are now listening to the most talked about blog talk radio station in the universe. Walk in His ways, Impact Voice Radio. Be prepared to have your mind stimulated, your spirit elevated in ways you couldn't even imagine. Introducing your host and the mastermind behind this unforgettable experience, Furman Jackson Jr. You will not be disappointed. Let's go!
Today is May 4th, 2022. Today is our Mother's Day edition here on Walking This Way's Impact Voice podcast. I'm very excited to be talking about our mothers because our mothers are a part of our life, a part of our culture. God made mothers, He made parents for a reason. And just to honor our mothers who who puts in the work, who all about raising the children, who's all about family, who's all about being an example to their families, being an example to their children. That's what it's all about tonight. And I'm very excited to have our guest on that's going to be joining with me tonight. As we talk about Mother's Day, we're going to be talking about the meaning of motherhood, what God said about mothers, how to take motherhood to where it needs to be in our generation. We know in the generation, we have a lot going on. We are at war right now, every day. But we know that God still owns family. We know that family is very important in God's eyesight. So I'm very excited to have my guest on with me. Some great women, of course, is here. That's going to be joined with me chopping it up here on Walking This Way Impact Voice podcast. So I want them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to get off into some Q&A conversations, some things that's going to be uplifting for the mothers, of course. So ladies, take it away.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. My name's Dannielle, and I'm so excited to be here to talk about being a mother. It's one of my greatest accomplishments. I have 3 beautiful children, 2 girls and a boy, and then I do a slew of other things, but I guess we're talking about motherhood today. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Excited. And then, of course, our next guest introduce herself.
I'm Whitney Hill, and I have 2 daughters, 15-year-old and 6-year-old. And she just turned 7, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, no problem. I thank y'all ladies for responding to, and I put out the call just to really talk about motherhood, and I really want to talk about family tonight, of course. We know we got a lot of things going on, but we know that God still honors family. Mm-hmm. So, Whitney, I'm going to ask you, what does motherhood mean to you in your own words?
I'm going to mute it. Okay. Motherhood means a lot to me because I believe that the title of mother is an action word, so it means being active and playing a very crucial role in your child. First of all, to be considered that title of mother, you have to have children. So I do believe that it comes with a blessing. It comes with a great responsibility, great purpose, because I believe raising children is a purpose, along with other things that you might do that, God gives you as a purpose. But I believe motherhood is just an action word, meaning it's a great responsibility, and it's something to not be taken lightly.
And awesome. And of course, the same question goes for you. What do motherhood mean to you in your own words?
I'd like to just kind of piggyback off of what Whitney said. Motherhood is definitely an action. It's when I think of being a mother, I think about what I had to do to become a mother, like carrying a baby for 9 months and, worrying about if they're going to be okay and all the wonderful things that come with it, but all of the hardship that you have to go through to get to the blessing of being a mother of a beautiful child. And then after becoming a mother, stewarding. So when I think about being a mother, I think about stewardship and how God blessed us with these children. And now it's our job to raise them up and put the right things into them, and how, you know, being a mother, you don't just show up every day and it just goes right. It's like you have to put work into it, and it's a hard job. And I love it. It's a great job, but it definitely takes a lot of work.
And it does. And we know that like I said, just going back to God blueprint on how he structured the family, how he put everything in perspective place for us to follow. And we know that we have a lot going on. I know, and I just want to know, just raising children. I mean, just showing the right from the wrong. Just in your day to day life, how do y'all go about raising children? I know you have to work. You're doing all this stuff at one time. So how do y'all maintain motherhood between working, family, you name it? How do y'all maintain that on Whitney?
Well, I would say, first of all, it's different aspects. Because I have been a single mother before. So I believe that there's different aspects and different roles. So I do not believe that biblically God designed it to, for mothers to be single and doing both jobs. However, that sometimes happens. So I think that it's different roles in each one. But I would say an ideal situation, which is the way I believe God intended the family unit to be, which is mother, father, children. I believe that the way that you handle it, you need a strong partnership with their father, and I believe that the way you handle it is a partnership, and it's a lot of teamwork and a lot of cohesiveness. And I believe that it is definitely the responsibility to teach your children, instill in your children, but more importantly, like to lead them to God, to lead them to Christ through prayer, and for being a good example also. Because sometimes it's a lot of people tell their children what to show them. And of course, we know children, they're like sponges. They do and usually become what they observe, So I think that it's a very crucial thing to show them by, by doing yourself. So motherhood, I mean, I can go on and on and on. I'm pretty sure like Dannielle, it is a very tedious and hard job. And I would be the first one to say, I did not know what to expect when I became a mother. I was like a lot of people who saw mothers and thought it was easy. I'm the baby of my family, and I never even changed a diaper until I became a mother. So I really, didn't understand was. So I would say being a mother, one of the reasons that God allowed us to become mothers is to understand God's sacrifice. Because if I could coin it with one term, I would say being a mother is about sacrifice, is about selflessness, it is about nurturing, it's about love. I mean, even scientifically speaking, there have been studies that have shown, a mother's love and how one of a kind it is in this world. So I just truly believe it's a gift to become a mother. And I just honestly, if you've ever, and I hate to say this, but a lot of times if you've ever, worked or been around those who are mothers and those aren't, it's a different dynamic, And so I just believe it's something that is placed in you when you become a mother by God.
I like that. Dannielle?
Wow. So the question is, how do we how do we like do life as a mother and still do everything that we're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah, because we know that the structure of the home, we know the structure of everything. Being parents also, being a mother is also teach your children about life, preparing them for life, preparing them for the things they're gonna end up going up against. We know that this generation we in, children are exposed to a lot of things. More to that, they're exposed to a lot of stuff. They're exposed to things whether at school, friends, other family members, but like Whitney was saying earlier, being an example to your children at home. In your own opinion, what does this here step that you take when it comes to being a mother?
Right. So I have little babies. I have a 1 year old, a 4 year old, and a 7 year old. So I'm still what I would consider like kind of like a new mom. And so I'm still learning. One thing that I always do for myself is I give myself room to make mistakes as a mom. You know, I'm not too hard on myself, but I take being a mother very seriously. And I put a lot of thought into the way that I parent my children and the things that I do, the things that I put before them. And so, you know, for me, just for like the basics, I am a single mom. So I have 3 kids at home. You know, I'm a single mom. I work, I have a few jobs. And so I think for me, the biggest thing is having a lot of processes. My kids, we do the same thing every day. Like when we come home from school, you know, they know that we're going to do this and then we're going to do this and then we're going to do that. And my kids are very gracious. I think they're much like me. Like Whitney was saying, like we have to be a good example. We can't just tell them, oh yeah, be this way, and not really be that way. And so I'm very kind. Or I try to be. I mean, hey, we all have our moments when we're like snapping on them and stuff. But I try to be intentional about the way that I'm talking to them, the things that I say, even what I say in front of them, to make sure that the things that are going into them at such a young age, as they are sponges, are things that I want to come out of them, even in public or in private, as they grow into adults. And I'm having those conversations with them, even at a very young age, about God, about what they're going to be when they grow up, even talking about the things that I do in my career right now so that they know about those things from a young age. And so I think the biggest thing is being intentional as a parent, because it's easy to just say, oh, I don't know how they got like this, but it's like you have time to be able to put things into them and you determine what comes out at some point.
Yeah, and I know no, a lot of our generation we have quite a few single mothers. You know, we got mothers who are married and want that family, want that structure with the man in the home. I know when you mentioned you was a single mother, but you end up being married. How is the partnership, the coming together with you and your husband? I just want to hear how it comes to the structure when it comes to families in our community, because we got a negative image right now. So how do you and Maurice maintain marriage? I know y'all got businesses going on, but how do y'all maintain that structure when it comes to y'all children?
Well, I mean, the main important thing is that we follow what God says. And I made sure, and I know God, I made it plain to God what I wanted, and He sent me exactly that. But I made sure that my prayer when my husband was to find me was to be a man who, you know, leads that God says, you know, not in the way that times are now, you know, because some people like to adjust and act as if God didn't know all of these things would be happening. You know, the Bible says God knows the end from the beginning. So of course He knew that things will be crazy right now, you know. So the Bible doesn't change according to the time. So the way that we handle things is, of course, my husband is my head, you know, And I follow. But my thing is, like I said, I think that it's easier when you know that your husband is following after God and leading you in the correct way. So the way that we structure, which is a lot different, and I'm gonna say this too, when you are a blended family, it is an extra, you know, dynamic mix of things, you know. Um, I previously I was married to their father. You know, we were high school sweethearts. It was a traditional everything, you know, yada yada yada. But as you know, life it doesn't always pan out the way that you thought it would. And I'm you know, we're both happy, so that's a good thing. But for Maurice, he has, you know, children from a previous relationship, and I have children. And so coming together, it's important to have that understanding of this is what it's going to be, but also understand that it's a little bit more, I would say, more difficult. So we just handle it by definitely having prayer and God as our focal point. We go to church as a family. We study the Bible. We go to Bible studies, and we try to instill those values in our children. And because day to day, the man that they see is him. You know, their dad is in the military. He's in Germany. So the man that they see day to day is him. So he's that good example of showing them how a man is supposed to treat them. They're girls. He opens the door. You know, he does, you know, certain things. And I will say, you know, my daughter, when we got together, she was a teenager. And teenagers, they're a little bit already, you know, hormonal, especially a girl. But one of the things that, and they're not always vocal, but one of the things that let us know, or let me know that, you know, we're steering them in the right way is, you know, she took her own money, her own allowance, and she got him a Father's Day gift. And one of the things she wrote in there was, and she's not a mushy person at all. And she said, "Thank you for showing me how a man is supposed to treat a woman." And I think that that's one of the roles, you know, as parents. And I think for me, as a mother, teaching my daughter, she's seen it on both ways. Single mother, she's seen it, you know, as a married woman, but also I think it's important to show her, you know, that or instill in her to have values, you know, to have values, let God lead and direct your path. And like Dannielle said, we have a schedule for our children. And honestly, that is something that I did not have before I met my husband. I was a free spirited person, kind of like, ooh, you know, and it was a chaotic. And I didn't really understand how important a structure was. So having, you know, somebody come in and show me how, like, it really helps, you know. And I'm sure she can attest to this. Like, when we have a structure, it allows me to see I have free time for this, or we have free time after they did X, Y, and Z. We actually can be together. You know, we actually can spend time together as husband and wife. But also it shows them how you know, you have certain tasks that you have to do. And once you do those tasks, you can move on to the next. And eventually it became it became routine for them. And I feel like the whole flow of the house, the whole pace of the house, the whole atmosphere of the house changed. So I think that in a nutshell, I'm not talking a lot, but
he did. It's all about adult. It's all about adult conversation. So that was all about
right.
him in the podcast.
Yes.
It definitely helps. Just having a structure. We keep God first. We align ourselves with what God says, the word, and we have a structure and we stick to that structure. And we reward them. You know, they do good grades. And we go on family trips. We do things. So I think that's important too. And they see us working too. They see us having a schedule for ourselves. So it's like, if we have a schedule and we're adults, we don't deviate. You're not either, you know. So holding them accountable, you know.
And that's good stuff. So having that discipline in the household. Having that, I know you and your husband display that discipline. Y'all lives have been example for them, and that's a beautiful thing to see a blended family come together like that. That's a beautiful thing. But the Bible says, I can't do all together except they'll agree. So I know it takes two willing people to make a thing work. The thing work is going to be successful. God wanted to be successful. So Daniel, how everything, the structure of your household, I know you having them values for your kids and stuff like that. Spending time, how you do go about spending time? You set a schedule on things y'all do together. How do you go about implementing that?
Well, I am very structured because I'm always doing something. And so, I'm the type of person where, like, if I don't have it planned, it's probably not going to get done. And so with my kids, I try to teach them about real life, kind of like what Whitney was saying. Like, we have to show them at a young age what real life is about by starting to instill some of those values in them. For example, having accountability. For example, my daughter this today, she decided she wanted to watch TV instead of eat breakfast. And then when we were on our way to school, she's like, "Can you stop and get me something?" And, I love her, but I'm like, I feel like I had to teach her at that moment about, making good decisions because she's 7. So she's old enough to, like, go get some cereal. Where I usually get the other kids breakfast in the morning, but she decides from day to day if she wants it. And so it's like I have to hold her accountable so she won't forget in the future and be like, oh, it doesn't matter because mom's going to bail me out. I want my kids to have accountability to themselves about the things that are important. And so I'm very structured. I'm kind of strict, but I'm kind of laid back sometimes about certain things. But in my household, I think for me, the structure helps. Like Whitney said, like what a normal day would look like is like I have a young baby, so I can put my kids down by 8 p.m. Everybody's down, and then I have my me time. I can do whatever I want to do, and then I can go to bed, because I have work in the morning. I don't stay up all night. And so I think it's important as professionals, and even as you get to certain places in life where you're doing more throughout the day, sleep is so important for us, and rest, and making sure that we accomplish things within a day. And so if we have things that we want to accomplish in the day, then we can measure our results. And so I have a thing that when I do my speeches and stuff, I'm always talking about how failure to plan is planning to fail. Right? And I'm always telling my kids that, because if you don't plan anything, then you don't know if you're going to be successful, because you don't even know what you want to accomplish. But if you have a plan for the day, for example, if I'm like, okay, I want to take the kids to the park on Saturday and, maybe read a book or whatever, then I know if I didn't do it, then it's like, okay, maybe next weekend or whatever. But at least I know that I didn't accomplish something. So I'm very structured with the babes. I try to make sure that they understand what's going on. I talk to them. One thing that I do differently than a lot of people I know is I talk to my kids like I talk to other adults. I don't baby talk my kids. I'm very straightforward with them about what's going on. I don't talk to them about stuff that's maybe inappropriate for a child, but as far as like having a conversation, I'm very just like I talk to them as if I was talking to any other adult, and so they catch on to like a higher level of vocabulary, and I hold them accountable. I'm very I just want them to grow up into like mature adults that are doing something in the world, not just like sleeping on my couch for the rest of their life or something like that.
And that's what's up right there. And it just made me think about how the book of Titus says that the wife is the keeper of the home. That structure, that value. Just going back to the home, going back to family, going back to God's divine order of family. And that's what we're talking about here tonight. I know just having that God-centered family, they know value still exists today. Being an example, being a light. Christ said we are the light of the world, being an example. When the pandemic hit and we went through the whole shutdown, and we know a lot of parents was upset. Well, I don't say once upset, but I want to say discouraged because of school shut down. Parents feel like I have to work. Who's gonna watch my kids? How did y'all handle that when that whole pandemic hit in 2020? Whitney, how did you and Maurice handle all that? That whole had to rearrange everything with the kids being at home through the pandemic, the whole shutdown.
Well, when the pandemic happened and shut down, I want to say remember exactly, but I want to say it happened in maybe April or May of 2020. We had actually just got married in March, 2020. So we're both business owners, and newlyweds, when the kids go to school, we create our own schedule. So in my mind, I'm thinking we're gonna have time, where the kids go, we can have a little lunch dates and do this, that, and the third. And so when the pandemic happened and the kids were at home, I must just say I never saw it coming. And thankfully, because we already had a structure for them, it was a lot easier to adjust because we already had like a schedule. Like even in the summertime, the kids have a schedule. They still have a study learning schedule. Like, and I have I don't have it with me, but I wish I could show you. But I got the 2 foam whiteboards, and on the front, it would be their schedule from this time to that time. And to me, it helped because it was a time when the teachers, they set plan, had to scramble and get stuff together. So we were still able to fill their day up with things and learning. And my daughter had, book reports. And honestly, during that time, I really feel like it was a blessing. And the reason why I felt like it was a blessing, because to me, it made me have to truly understand, and this is my opinion, but it made me truly understand how crucial my role is as a mother. And I think that because I get so busy, working and trying to build this empire and do this, thinking, okay, I'm focused on leaving a legacy for my children, that I really forgot about the present of my mission while they're still young, So I really believe, to me, it was a blessing. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was like most parents, like, oh my God, panicking, because it came out of nowhere. But I'm just thankful that I was able to adjust and just kick that schedule into gear, into the teachers had a curriculum. And I know other schools had different schedules, but once they got their schedule together, they were like the teachers were, they had it down to a T once they got it, and so I think that whole thing just helped me. And I think that truly that was like God wanted to, I heard somebody say, like, it's like a parent, because God is a parent, right? You get in trouble and your parents say, go to your room. And like how God sent the whole world to their room in a way, because we had gotten, I felt like, so far away from family values and different things that really matter to God. And I really was able to see truly, like, yes, the schools, they teach the basics, but really you still have to, instill the values and everything, even more now during this time. So I thank God for that time to be able to spend with my children, shut down everything. I'm in the real estate market. A lot of people weren't buying houses because they didn't want to buy. You're not going to buy a house when you can't go and see it. So I was able to slow down. Thankfully, we didn't miss a beat financially. Praise God. And I was just able to realign my focus back on what was the most important thing, which I believe my most important purpose while on this earth, which is to be a mother. I love other things as well, and but I believe that is my most important purpose. Because when I look biblically through the Bible, that's what I see. Women were given since the beginning. That purpose, that blessings. So, I always, like I said, I always go back to where it all began for me, and that's through what God said.
And also, you know what? And I just agree that when we went through that whole shutdown, like I said, the restructure again. And I know we get so busy in this world. We constantly trying to do this and do that, and then we forget about the importance. And on that, I think it got a lot of people to, especially their family, marriages, children, to reintroduce ourselves to each other, because I really got that time to get to dialogue and talk about things and rekindle some things. Like, wow, some beautiful stuff there. And how did y'all handle the pandemic when it hit with the mother? I know the mother rose there, but I know it kicked in extra with the children being at home, stuff like that. So how did you handle it?
So when the pandemic hit and my daughter had to stay home, I was actually pregnant with my last child. And so that was a really hard time for me. At first, it was like chaos because I am very process driven. So for somebody like me to just change everything overnight, it was just like chaos in my home. And I had two little babies, and then I was pregnant and I was exhausted. And so at first I was just like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. I can't do this. But like Whitney said, it was a blessing because I got to see my children from a different light. I got to spend more time with them and get to know them a lot more. And also I got to have a newfound respect for the teachers for what they go through with the kids, because I didn't realize how hyper my 7-year-old, she's now 7, but at the time she was 6. She's so hyper, she was, and I'm trying to help the teacher, and the teacher's don't help me, just don't say anything. And so it was an interesting time. I got a lot of time with my kids, and I think my kids needed that time with me. It's personal time to talk. We got to hang out. I spent a lot of time doing worship during the day, so they got to join in on that, and it was just it was a very special time, I would say. And when the schools reopened, I found myself a little bit oh, I'm gonna miss them, because I can work from home. I'm a financial advisor, so I didn't have to miss a beat financially. Now my heart goes out to those women who had to go to work, single moms, and they had to figure that out. I didn't have that situation, thank God, but I can't imagine trying to figure that out and, trying to figure out how you're going to continue on working and doing the things that you need to do. So, for me, the scenario played out very well, and I think that was really by the grace of God. And it was very hard, especially because my babies are also young. So it just felt like I was just working all the time with no breaks. But we got through it. So they're back at school.
But we know that it was all about our faith, of course. Mm-hmm. Trusting God. That's why Christ said, don't take no thought for tomorrow. Don't worry about nothing. Man, he didn't take no thought for our lives. We said, don't worry about what you eat, people drink. And where they told us, seek ye first the kingdom. Seek God, seek God for and his kingdom. But you first God, his kingdom, his rights, and all these things will be added. Just that faith in God, not being moved by what we see. And I know a lot of times we get moved by what we see. But we, in this human body, that we get discouraged, we get frustrated, we get upset. knowing that God did not give the spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind.
Mm-hmm.
It even may remind me how when we go through our wilderness, when Jesus went on his fast for 40 days, stuff like that. And after he came out of it, how the devil came to tempt him. He tried to do that the same way on a regular basis. He tries to get us out of faith into fear.
Mm-hmm.
So that faith factor is very important. We got to have that faith. And just being, like, once again, being an example. Another thing I want to talk about, being parents, being a mother, also being a teacher, being a life teacher. Of course, you want to say, prepare your kids for life. We had mentioned that earlier. How do you go? I know when you have an older daughter, how do y'all go about preparing her for the next phase of life? She eventually getting off going to adulthood, but you know it. So how do y'all have these conversations with your kids that's going, stuff you should do this, don't do that? How do y'all implement that when it comes to sitting down having conversations with your kids on certain things that they should be aware of?
Well, I would say I have a 15-year-old. Well, she technically turns 15 May 21st, but she's already calling herself a 15-year-old. I will say that what I do to teach her is I would say at first I'm like, I'm mama, you gonna do what I say, da 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 da, and that should be that. But honestly, I always tell people there is no one size fits all to parenting, and don't let anyone tell you, one size fits all, because for one, child is different, and I realize with my child, she's a very sensitive. She's a very sensitive person. So, and I'm not a sensitive person. I'm not as sensitive as her. So I'm very blunt, and I'm very, if someone tells me I'm prior military, I'm a veteran, I'm an Army veteran. So it's like somebody tell me to do something to move out, that's what I'm doing. But her, I would say the way that I teach her is I've learned her love language, so to speak. And her love language is to definitely still tell her what needs to be done, but deliver it with a little bit more love, because that's just what she needs. And I say this also. This is a Christian podcast, so I always tell people I gotta mention God, because that's but I don't feel like I have to say that on this show. I will say that one of the things about it is when it comes to the way that God does things and the way that God leads things, I feel like God has a sense of humor, because each one of my children are things, they have qualities and traits that I need to work on within myself. So I see things that I need to work on. I know that I needed a softer side of myself, and I needed to be able to deliver things to people in a different way, instead of, they should just understand that I love them and I'm saying it with love. They should just receive it, and so I have learned that through her patience and how to, to lead her with that compassion and that love. And I've been getting greater and even better results, because teenagers, they will test you. They will test you. I always think about the scripture when God said, even in your anger, don't sin. And I'm thinking like, Lord, how? Because I'm just so, But and I understand is because even when a person, God didn't say don't get angry. He said even in your anger, don't sin. So, even when you get upset, you still have to do it with love. You still have to take care of that person with love. And so sometimes I may need a moment, before I do things, but I think to instill in her the values of one, how to, like I said, how to be a praying woman, how to believe, have faith, how to believe. You ask, you believe, you receive. Don't stress things, where now she's in high school, but we talk about college. What are your goals? What do you want to do? At first she said she wanted to be a YouTuber, so I made her write a book report on YouTubers. Like, how much do they make? How much content do they have to put out before they go viral? What do you need to do? So after she did the research, she quickly didn't want to do that anymore. So she wants to be a cosmetologist. I made her do a report on, what's some top cosmetologist schools, what's the earner, what are your plans with cosmetology? Are you opening up your own business? Do you plan on working for someone? Oh, you want to own your business? Okay, what's your business plan? Because she has two parents in the household that are business owners. So I think it's really important task, and it's really fun, to see a person that God gave you authority on this earth to kind of like help lead them in the way that their little mind is going. So I think that's how I do things, for my older child, my teenager, whatever.
Yeah, you just mentioned the patience.
Absolutely.
Christ said, "Be merciful as our Father is merciful." So we have to display that mercy. We have to display that grace, that patience on a regular basis when it comes to the interacting with the children. Even though I don't have any, but that still has to come a role where you be patient, compassion. Christ had compassion, and you still have to have that love. And like you said, it's okay to be angry, but don't let it turn to sin. Meaning, don't let that anger do something you're going to regret later on. And that comes from reacting. When we react, that means whatever it is, we allow that person or that situation to control us. But we respond with a high level, but we still maintain control. So that patience come in, and people get so frustrated. You still gotta be patient because they still learning. We was all there. Keep up your head, keep falling down, get up. We still going because we still growing every day as men and women. We still growing every day. So that patience plays a role. So Dannielle, I'm asking you about that. How does the structure, the patience, the kindness, the grace, and the mercy, how do you implement that as being a mother of yourself?
Well, I have a little baby, so a lot of patience is needed, especially with three little ones. They're all about 3 years apart. And so I've made it a point to never try not to. I'm not perfect, but try not to speak to them out of anger, or if I get upset, I try to remove myself from the situation and just calm down. So that's just for me, just so that I can think about whatever I'm saying. And I try to use that principle in my life in general, but especially with my children, because, we can say things, and I've just seen it so much where, things have been said to people, and it's really carried them throughout life, like word curses, and you could say something to somebody that could really destroy them for the rest of their life. And so I've just been really careful about the words that I say to my kids. Like Whitney said, like using the word of God to raise up my children is so important. I'm always talking to them about how, like if they do something wrong and there's a consequence for that. I talk about how God says that, if we don't discipline our children, it means that we don't love them. And so I kind of I have babies, so I'm able to kind of walk them through the process of getting to discipline. Like, did you do something wrong? What did you do wrong? I make sure that they understand why we are where we are. I'm not just out here just getting upset and, reacting. So I try not to be a defensive mom. I try to be more like an offensive mom. Now things happen sometimes where it's you just have to respond right away. And then sometimes I have to come back. I'm one of those moms where I really try to apologize to my kids as much as possible. Um, I didn't see a lot of that when I was growing up, and it was just, I just felt like a lot of parents don't apologize. Where, like, if I do something wrong, or if I said something wrong, I'm quick to humble myself. And it's just like me checking myself too, because I never want to be too prideful to think that I can't make a mistake. And I want my kids to know that I take my job as their mom really seriously. And I want to be a good mom, even though, sometimes I might not do things right, or I might say something wrong. But I think if you're able to like humble yourself and come to them and be like, you know what, I was wrong here. I apologize. Kids are so loving, they're so gracious. And so I've been able to really build strong relationship with my kids by being on them about a lot of things, but then also being gracious and loving and caring, and humbling myself, and spending time to really like the things that I see in them that I want to encourage and empower. I spend my time, the extra time, to like develop those traits in them, rather than just like, oh wow, you're so kind. Like my oldest, she really has a heart for the homeless, and I have a heart for the homeless, so she kind of got that from me. And we've had some really uncomfortable conversations about like homeless people, and then she wanted to do more. And sometimes it's easy as a parent, because it would take a lot of work for me to like go and make that happen. But it's easy to be like, oh wow, that's good, but you're a kid, like you have to get, one day you could do that. But I really want to like empower my kids, and so I took time, and we kind of developed like a little program to do something for the homeless. But for me, it's not really about that, but it's about just doing the work as a parent to help your kids to see, like, if you want to do something in this world, it's just, you just got to go for it. It doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter what like how hard it is, or what kind of rotten tomatoes the world threw at you. You might have a hard life, but that doesn't mean that you can't have a better life. And so I'm always trying to encourage my kids. I've seen families, not a lot, but I have seen families where all the kids, they look at the parents, and they're just so blessed. They look at their parents, they're adults now, and they look at their dad and their mom, and they're just like, wow, like I want to be like them. And for me, that's like a goal of mine. Like when my kids get to be older, I want them to look at me and be like, wow, like I want to be like my mom. Like my mom, she's amazing. She's somebody I would want to be like. And so yeah, that's kind of my spiel for that.
Yeah, and this thing about the communicating is very important. Um, William, man, how does the communication work between you and your children and so your family? We know that a lot of times our parents never implemented stuff as we was growing up. Now, it's really, really not taking on while parents, they're tending to do well, but their style of method, what I'm saying, really wasn't, but they learned from their parents. So, you hear a lot of people say they want to change their generational. They want to change their generation. They want to change their family tree. So, as being in a blended family, how do y'all go about that? Changing the family structure, changing y'all family tree from how y'all grew up individuals to now, you know what? This is a new legacy. We have a blended family, and just changing that family tree.
Well, I would say for my parents, they're still together. They actually just celebrate their 40th wedding anniversary.
Okay.
Um, And my husband, he was raised by my mother. For me, I've only seen, close up at hand, a 2-parent household. Because that's what I was raised in. When you're a child, you're not paying attention to other people, family, dynamics. You just have a friend, you play with a friend. You don't ask like, where's your dad or where's your mom? So I really, I would say a lot of things were first for me. Like I said, I was a single mother for a while. I've known single mothers, but I've never, like seen it close up to know how difficult it was. When you see them, they come to a family function with their child and they fresh and they clean and it looks easy, and they go home and eat and, so I never really had that. I didn't grow up in that type of environment or that household. So I didn't know what to expect. I became a single mother, and that's when I appreciated. And I was like, listen, being a single mother is hard. And I was like, I had way more respect for single mothers when I became a single mother. And so, and when I was a single mother, I was in the Army. So I was away from all family. I didn't have no family. I didn't have no friends. I didn't have anybody. I had my church community, which my church was small. I had my church community, but I would say it was a true single mother situation. My husband, he was raised by a single mother. His grandparents, he got to spend summers with them and see that 2-parent household, how it works, everything like that. But coming together, I would say we both had our own ideas of how it's supposed to work. I was used to seeing certain things. He was used to seeing certain things. So I knew I wanted to take some things from what I was raised seeing and some things I didn't want to see. One of the things that I wanted to take was I saw a true partnership. You couldn't play mommy, daddy, against one another. If I go to my mom, and I ask, if I go to my daddy and I ask him for something, he say no. And I go to my mom, what did your daddy say? He said no. Well, then why you ask? You know what I mean? So I saw that, and I said, okay, that's something that stuck with me. I'm like, dang, how they know that? How they know I went to the other one first? So I definitely wanted to take that and be able to, show my children a true partnership. Like, this is what a partnership looks like and what it is, because ultimately that's what a family is. I mean, forget husband, wife, anything. It is a partnership. When you think about even Fortune 500 companies, they have mission statements. They have a mission statement, and they're all supposed to be on board to attain that mission. Family, it's the same thing. You're supposed to have a mission as a family. And everybody's supposed to be on board to do that. The kids play their role. You're supposed to go and get good grades. You're supposed to graduate. You're supposed to go to college. You're supposed to do this. That is their goal. And we're all supposed to be on board helping them. Okay, you're not excelling in math, but you need a tutor. Okay, let's do this. That's helping. That's a community based situation. I would say some of the things that I did not want to take into my family dynamic is that my parents, although they weren't like church going people all the time, a lot of the church things, a lot of the things that were tradition based things that I no longer keep. I keep the Feast of God, the Passover, all those different things. So those are things that I didn't really care to do anymore, because for my family and my structure, I want to do things that were more biblical and that I will be able to give more of an account. So my children, we're not Jehovah's Witness, because everybody asks me this when I say this, but we don't celebrate Christmas. We don't celebrate Christmas. I grew up celebrating Christmas, but as I became into adulthood and studied and saw the things, that's something that I don't incorporate, or like a lot of the man-made holidays. We keep the Feast of Tabernacles. We keep the feast all the Jewish feast, but the New Covenant way. You know, we don't slaughter lambs and do that stuff. We do the bread and wine that represents Jesus Christ's flesh and blood. We celebrate resurrection. We don't acknowledge Easter because we know there's idolatry, certain things.
Right.
So those things I do take and incorporate into what my children do, and in that dynamic, I feel like it's another thing that kind of like separates or makes it a little bit more complicated, because when the majority of the world is doing something, you know, and you're a child and you're like, I just want to receive gifts and I want to do this, and you have to teach your child, like, you know, really, you know, we need to understand, you know, why we're not keeping it, you know.
Right.
And then let's research and see, where did this derive from? And of course, you know, my husband and I, because, you know, he's the same way. Like, even before I met him, he wasn't keeping those. So at first it was met with a lot of adversity from family members. They're like, well, you grew up like that, or you're robbing the children from this and you're robbing children from that. And we're like, no, you know, we get our children things year round. We don't wait on the specific day, a man-made day that is rooted in something that is not of God anyways, you know. And I always say, I don't put, you know, potpourri on poop, you know, and just, you know, so
Right.
Those are some of the things I do keep from what my parents taught me and my children, and then those are some of the things that I don't keep.
Awesome stuff. So we know how God set things up. It is a beautiful thing, because when I was back in home in Mobile and stuff like that, and before you and Maurice got married, me and we used to have conversations in his barbershop all the time about things like that, because that stuff is very important to me too.
Mm-hmm.
Doing things God's way, doing things the right way, doing things that's pleasing to Him. And it made me think about what you were saying when they came to Jesus, when they said that your mother and your brothers wanted to see you, but He didn't stop doing God's will.
Right,
He said,
right.
but those who do God's will is my mother and my exactly. So it made me think about what you were just saying on that. Awesome stuff. How did that whole show change? Like, so we was programmed to keep the early days, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But getting out of that shift, how was it going through that, like, that whole coming out from what we thought was right to getting to the right things now? How it's supposed to be, because we know we have days that we're supposed to celebrate. The Bible talks about the days that we're supposed to celebrate. So how did the journey end up getting accustomed to that?
Well, my youngest, she was raised that way, you know, but you know, so it hadn't been that difficult. My oldest, you know, she remembers it, and of course, when you go to school and from breaks, they're like, "Oh, what did you get for Christmas?" And you know, because I have also raised them to be outspoken and vocal about what they believe, if asked, and also if challenged, because I think that it's important. But I also teach my children to respect what others believe, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what I at times that children don't, because they're children, and I don't think it's my job to go around and crush their dreams of saying, well, you know, Santa Claus not real, you know. If they try to challenge it, but I try to teach my children how to defend their truth. Well, not even their truth, is God's truth. So they know Bible scriptures, and most of the time their friends are coming from a point of view of like, wow, I didn't know that, you know, and they're children, so I understand that. But if they ask, of course, my 7-year-old, you know, her friends don't ask those questions, and she's not opening up Bibles and giving Bible study lessons at school or anything. But I think that it's important for them to see, because I will say this, I believe, and this may be another time for a different day, but I believe that it's so much information out there now that a lot of the youth, they are lost. So you have those who are still holding on to man-made traditions, and then you have the woke group. And sometimes the woke group, you know, is no middle. And I've heard some interesting, you know, woke, you know, analogies on different things, and it's really reaching, in my opinion. So think that it's important for them to understand why it is we do what we do, from a biblical standpoint, because it's never going to be like you just telling it, but you just show them biblically, because I think that in that way it gives a more solid faith, because a lot of people walk around with blind faith. I was one of those people. I walked around with blind faith. Why? I used to do things because great grandma and grandma and great, everybody told me to do things. And then, when like the Bible scripture says, when the seas and the wind started to come, then you are able to see if your house is built on sand or if it's built on rock. And every time I would fold, and I would be like, well, I really don't know why I'm doing it. I just do it because they told me to do it. And I don't think it was at any fault to them. I don't think that they were purposely trying to lead me astray. They were just doing what they were taught to do. But I think it is our responsibility, because there's so much avenues out there to be able to get to the truth. And I believe that's truly why God said, my people will perish for lack of knowledge, because it's out there, but they're not there. There's some that are reaching over it, and then there's some who are not trying to reach. And so they're missing it. And I want my children to understand, and I pray they never deviate from that, but like the scripture says, if they do, they won't depart far from it. They always come back to that. And that's just how we do things. And so far, they have been I've seen a difference in them, because I always tell my husband, it is very hard to convince somebody of something when they know who they are. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot of youth walking around who don't know who they are or where they come from.
Right.
So they don't have a solid understanding of who they are. So that's why you see, in my opinion, so many youth that are doing things that they're trying things that I just feel like they wouldn't try or do if they really had a solid understanding of who they are, who they were.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that on what you were saying, because in my line of work, I see this all the time. Mm-hmm. We have more youth being incarcerated more than ever. We have young men who look at life in prison. What that mean? What happens? A generation gets cut off.
Absolutely.
And we know that God intends for husband and wife to be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth. So how can that happen when you got males being incarcerated for the rest of their life? So a generation's being cut off. And it's better change that. And I see a lot of kids, a lot of good kids, but they just being influenced the wrong way. But like you said, they know the right way. And we know that the system's already set up for them to fail. We see this all the time. It's like through school, okay, we're just going to pass little Johnny through, because we know he's going to be set for failure anyway. But changing all that, and that's very important. Like I said, I see that all the time. We see a lot of young men being locked up, and it's sad. It really is sad.
It really is.
And like I said, these kids getting capital murder charges. It's like, wow. Wrong place, wrong time. No, it's like, we gotta change that. Especially it's in our community. I'm not saying it happened to other communities, but we see it more in our community. Okay. The brokenness, the anger, the lashing out, just being real, just not sugarcoat anything, not turn a blind eye to everything, but really talk about, hey, this stuff is going on, because we know that the devil fights hard. He does not play no game. He's ruthless, of course. He's going to shoot it. He's going to blow it out. But we know we have more power than he does. But really just being real, showing the realness, explaining, hey, this is what happened if you do this. Explaining all the outcomes, implementing that. And that's the good thing about it. And of course, we got Coach Shay with us. She also co-hosts of Impact World. Welcome, Coach Shay. What's going on with you?
Hello. I really wanted to add to that. It's been a really good topic. Of course, I'm a boy mom of 3. I had my first child when I was like 19 years old. So I've experienced being a single parent as well, up until I met my husband. So it's a lot, as a kid, experiencing being a young mother growing up, I was sitting here and I was thinking, like, as a kid, I was forced to make a lot of adult decisions. And they put me in a lot of adult situations, being forced to make a lot of adult decisions. And a lot of that is still going on now. Because why? It's set up like that. Like, the parent not in the house, mom at work, daddy at work, everybody working. They're not really that available. So you kind of left to just fend for yourself because nobody is around to really just tell you what to do. So you kind of left to make those adult decisions, and you start doing adult like things because you like, well, shit, I'm by myself anyway. Because that's me. That was me. My mindset as a kid, like, I'm already by myself. You leaving me by myself, so I'm left to make these adult decisions, and I start being more adult-like, and I stop being able to operate as a child because now I gotta fend for myself. I gotta do everything for myself. Nobody is available, so now I gotta switch my whole mindset. I'm forced to do this because I gotta fend for myself. Now I gotta put my another mindset, another position, another way of thinking. So it forces you to grow up pretty fast when you in them type of situations or them type of environments. And I came from a poorer environment. My mama, she didn't work. We had government assistance. My daddy stayed locked up half of my life. So it was a lot of key elements in my life that kind of led me to different paths. So it's like I understand how it can happen when you kind of lose that guidance, because it become a point where you don't even want to listen no more because you left me alone so much. So you feel like, why I'm listening to you? You've been leaving me. I don't respect you. I don't really, like, your word have no integrity. Like, how you're not credible. How can I respect you? So it becomes like that. That's what builds the rebellion in a lot of children, because it's like, I can't come to you for nothing. I can't talk to you. You ain't never heard. Why I'm listening to you? Every time you heard, you yelling at me. Da 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 da. That's how that builds that rebellion. If you like, well, fuck you, I ain't gotta be here. I'm not gonna be here. That's what leads kids to running away. It be all kind of elements that we be told, don't talk about. Don't say this, because what goes on in the house, stay in the house. And that be tormenting a lot of our children. It was me. I was one of them children that when it became to the point where I had to seek help from other adults that I could trust. And we will be, people will be mad like, oh, my kid can't come to me. No, stop doing that. Let that kid go to any adult that they feel comfortable to talk to, even if that's not you. I'll tell my nieces in a second, even if it's not me, I need you to talk to an adult that you feel comfortable with talking to, because sometimes you might not feel good emotionally dumping on your mom or emotionally dumping on your dad, because you might feel like they don't understand, because why? The curse of familiarity. They're going to judge you because they know you. So if it is a parent or somebody that's an adult that a child can go to, let them go to that adult and talk it out. As long as you know that they're not going to give them no harmful advice, let that child have a bond with another adult that might not be you, that they can consult with, that you trust, that'll give them sound advice as well. Because it takes a community to raise children. Like, I think that's another reason why a lot of things be falling off with the kids too, is because we feel like, oh, you can't tell my kid nothing. You can't discipline my kid. You can't do this. But back in the day when we was growing up, everybody disciplined us to a certain extent, because nobody was going to tell you nothing wrong. And I feel like a lot of people we can't say nothing because they feel like, oh, if I say too much, then this other person going to get offended, or this not my child, so I shouldn't say nothing. But I feel like as long as you're guiding that child in the right way and you talking to them with respect, you should be able to, give that child some type of direction. Or I should be able to tell a child, hey, that's not right. Don't hit that little boy. And he not be like, F you, woman, da 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 da. And my mom, and I'm gonna go get my mama, and the mama taking up for him, even though he wrong. And I done had situations like that over in where I live, where it makes me not want to allow my kids to play with other children in this community. We go elsewhere and let you play with kids you might not even know.
Wow. And like it's the whole structure what's going on right now. There's a lot of deep stuff going on right now, but really changing that. Whitney, you have anything you want to elaborate on?
Oh yeah, I wanted to say, that was really good. What you said, Coach Shay, because it definitely puts a lot of things into perspective for my teenage daughter. Because like I shared when I first got on, she was my first experience. I never even changed a diaper before I had her. So those are some things that I do not take from what I was raised at. When I was raised, children are to be seen, heard. That's how the elders were, the grandparents, the aunts. But I'm thankful that I didn't have my father. And to this day, they make fun of my father because they say, I remember when y'all used to what they call as disrespect to our dad. We would never disrespect our dad because our dad is like that type of man. He's that black male that when he just got to look at you. But he allowed us to be outspoken in a certain way, and that's what I instill in my children. We don't carry on that children are to be seen and heard, or what goes on in this house, stay on in this house. Now, I did grow up with that. What goes on in this house, stay in this house. But I thank God that I grew up in a healthy household where it wasn't no, touching on us or nothing like that or whatever. But I had children, I had friends, like childhood friends. I had a childhood friend who confided in me and told me that, that was going on in her house, and was scared. Please don't say nothing, So I do believe, during the time that we live in the thing that you said about community. And I've had this debate with someone before about the community, about the whole community thing. I do believe when it comes to our lineage, I do believe we need to get back to a sense of community or collectivism instead of individualism. However, I believe that a lot of things have changed. Not to say that there wasn't, touching and feeling from uncles, whoever back in the day. I just believe that there's more of it. And I believe it because prophecy says in the last days, the love of people will grow cold. So it's more of that going on now. So I do want to incorporate that, a community sense. I don't have a problem with somebody correcting my child. It's just that certain things that were okay back in the day for adults to do to children, I don't, because you just don't know people these days. I mean, when you watch the news and the media, it's so many even mothers killing their children. That shows you how wicked this world is becoming. Yeah. So when it comes to certain things, and my father, we couldn't spend the night at people's house, as we couldn't definitely sit on no man lap or nothing like that. Those things I still incorporate, because I don't care who you are, you just don't know. And that's the thing about today, is that you just don't know, and you have to be protective. But I am an advocate also for counseling. My teenage daughter, she has been to counseling. She has been to therapy. And that's something that I feel like was shunned in our community not too long ago. Now I'm so thankful that I'm seeing more people speak out, and more even celebrities being advocates of that. But that's something even, through my divorce with my child. My divorce with their dad, she's old enough to understand she needed counseling. I could see that. I could see that outlet. And like you said, even if you can't talk to me, because sometimes, especially with a divorce situation, you don't want to talk to mommy about how mommy is making you feel with her decisions, or how dad is making you feel with their decisions. You don't want to guilt them, or whatever. So I'm an advocate for that as well. Like you said, even if the parent is like, you whatever go in this house, stay in this house. You better not tell nobody what's going on. Don't do that. Allow them to talk to anybody, even somebody who is licensed in child therapy, and to be able to help, because that is ultimately a major responsibility. And I always tell people, I do believe that the purpose that God give us, like God gives us talents, right? I believe that the talents that He give us, we're going to be responsible if we don't use those talents and do what He intended for us to do. Right. And even down to the point, God said He'll take it away and give it to somebody else who's going to be, put it into use. But I feel like I said earlier, Brother, it is a purpose attached to that. So if you neglect that responsibility in a certain way, and you don't, carry out that duty faithfully, then I believe that that's a punishment. You're gonna have to stand before God and give an account even for that. So it's some things definitely from the past you bring, and some things you just need to let die. You need to let it burn.
Right.
So I'm a big advocate of that as well. And that's all I wanted to say.
Because a lot of people going through a lot of stuff, and this open up a whole new arena here tonight on the show. The communication, and we may think about the Bible said, "House divided cannot stand." So we know if you got to divide a household, it's not going to stand. Husband going one way, wife going one way, children stuck in the middle. So they stuck between two opinions, but coming together. I don't believe in abuse. You put your hands on me, I'm leaving, because I grew up around that. Because my dad used to do my mom like that growing up, and I used to see that growing up. I don't like that. If you do that, I'm leaving, because we ain't got time for all that. That plays a role. Like you mentioned earlier about a childhood friend who was touched, of course. That plays a role too, because that happened to me before. When I was in Head Start, a little girl used to do me like that. So we never really was taught to communicate about these things. So we hold this stuff on the inside of us, and what we do is this stuff builds up with over time, and we deal with these things. We go into this whole mental prison. And I know nowadays people are starting to open up now and get professional help and being real. Because if you ever go to an AA meeting, what's the first thing they're going to teach you? They're going to tell you admit you have a problem. And we hate to admit we have a problem. We keep this pride up. We want to say these cliches. But then when we leave everybody's presence and we in that place by ourselves, that's when the real you come out. I want to talk about this too. Why are people afraid to talk about certain things? I can say first thing, people feel like they're going to be judged. You hear people say, what people going to think? But people are actually hurting. And I'm not talking about kids. I'm talking about adults. I'm talking about 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds. And we want to play this whole thing like we okay and we're not okay. So I'm going to talk about that too. In the household, with the family, is it very important to talk about real life, reality issues?
Absolutely. I think my first brush with that was when I lost my daughter in 2018. And when I lost my daughter in 2018, I went into such a depression that my living kids were really suffering. And I was so out of touch with reality and what was really going on that I didn't notice that my kid was like, he was going to school and he wasn't performing and everything was triggering him. He was crying. And so it definitely it's never a bad time to have a real life conversation, because it was things that I had to sit and explain. Like, he's like, I'm scared to go to sleep at night. These were things that I didn't know. I'm scared to go to sleep, Mom. I'm afraid I'm gonna die in my sleep. And it was all kind of things that was going through his head, and I wasn't realizing that the things that I was telling him, how he was internalizing it. Kids interpret things way different than we do as adults. So, death to them is like, is it gonna happen to me next? Because this is a kid, So I didn't realize how that was affecting them. So it's definitely absolutely important to have uncomfortable conversations with your kids. I remember my mama having a lot of uncomfortable conversations with me growing up, and I'd be like, oh my God, why is she telling me this? And it wasn't until I started getting older I realized that it was really helping me. She was really instilling things in me, like really dropping little seeds in me. And I try to do that same thing for my kids. Like if I hear something on the news, I tell my children. They need to be informed. Like the war, my 11-year-old knows what's going on with the war right now. I try to keep him informed of when the school shootings happen. When other little kids is playing with guns and got injured, I'm letting him know things like this. The transgender, the LGBT community, all these things, I'm letting my child know. These are very uncomfortable conversations, but these are things that they are about to be exposed to. And like being that my kid is about to be in middle school, these are, it's people starting to do the transitioning once they get in middle school and things like this. So these are things that I have to inform my sons about, because it might be a situation you might run into one of these type of people. You got to know how to approach these situations. So it is very important to have those uncomfortable conversations so that they'll know how to respond.
Yeah, and that's important. And you just been thinking about Adam and Eve in the garden. The Bible says they was naked and they was not ashamed. That's how God wants to be. God wants us to be naked and unashamed. Me be open. And don't be ashamed of it. And we know that fear comes into play. Okay, if I talk about this, what they gonna think? Why it is? Why you say that? Why you do that? Because this is what's going on. Because we put ourselves in this mental prison that we don't want to talk about things. People talk about Will Smith and Jada and stuff. That incident with Chris Rock, that didn't have anything. That's something that's been built on the inside because of stuff that he's going through, stuff he's dealing with. Men, especially from a man's perspective, men, we deal with a lot. I'm saying we deal with a lot. We've been truly broken all our lives. We was taught, don't cry. You be tough. You a man. But we deal with all this. And what happens? We get married. We take it out on the wife. Because we were never taught how to communicate. Men become communicate now, but we were never taught how to communicate. We were never told to express. If you express yourself, you must be gay if you express yourself. So men were scared to express themselves. You must be gay if you express yourself. But we deal with a lot of issues that we need to address, and what it does, it triggers on to our family. So how should we start changing these things? We know the problem. None of bring them a solution. So how can we start changing these things now?
Well, firstly, it's not caring what people think. Like, I really had to think about what you had just said. And if we, the knowledge of what we know, like what we know is right, is way more important than what people think is right. You know what I'm saying? Or what people think they're supposed to go this way. It's supposed to be the right thing or the right way. It don't really matter like what nobody thinks, as long as it's not I feel like you can think what you want as long as it's not harming anybody. Like I can think what I want, but if it's a negative thought, just keep it to yourself. I don't want to know. I ain't gonna negative thinking. But it's like what I know, the things that I know is way more important than what I think. Because when I hear the word think, I feel like it's just an opinion. It's like an opinion. It's not really based on no facts. It's just something I think. It's just what I think. It's just my opinion. But what I know is way more important than what I think. That's why I feel like people can really judge and really misconstrue things instead of listening. Because it was like, even one day I was telling somebody about postpartum. Like, postpartum depression can have you sitting on the couch, your kids is turning up everything, and you so messed up that you can't even move. You can't even do anything. And one girl was like, oh my God, I didn't know that. I just thought that these women were bums. I just thought that no, seriously. She was like, I just thought that these women were bums. I just thought that these women didn't have no control over their kids and their life. And I'm just like, they might be depressed. They might be so depressed to the point where they can't do anything for themselves. So I think it's being more informed, like be more in the know. Like, no, stop thinking you know something. Like, be more, like in the know. Like, don't just pass judgment and just make up these false narratives. Like, be more, do your research. It's okay to do that. Like, educate yourself. It's okay to do that. And it's okay to not know everything. It's okay. Like, it's it's like really okay.
I mean, because we always learning, we always evolving, we always becoming, people say now a better version of themselves. And we should always strive to become a better version of ourselves each and every moment. I love what it says, the Bible says, confess your faults one to another, then pray that you may be healed. See, that's the point. We have to confess our faults one to another. Then it says, pray that we may be healed. So that means if we confess our faults to each other, we don't get into a judgment mode. We start getting into a praying mode, and God will do the healing. You know what I'm saying? Because first of all,
I like that one.
Because that's why I base this whole podcast off that scripture, because it said confess your faults one to another and pray that you may be healed.
I like that.
God wants us to be healed, but in order for us to be healed, we got to confess that fault in order to be healed.
It is interesting you said it, because like she said, I like that. I never really thought about it in that way, because I'm one of those type of people who like, because, but I think the key part in that is to confess it to somebody who is a believer, who has the faith, and not gossip, because it also says trades of confidence. So you have to, know who you can entrust and instill in that information, who gonna pray. But I never looked at that like that. So that's interesting, that you say that.
Yeah, because it said confess your faults one to another. So that means you got faults, I got faults. We confess these things, we talk about this thing. You know what? Let's start praying that God can start doing some healing. Because we all need some healing in our lives. I don't care. You could be Superman, you could be Wonder Woman. I don't care who you is. Some form of fashion, we need some healing. If not, that toxic is going to spew over to somebody else. There are a lot of men always take out stuff on their wives because the stuff they grew up, or they girl, whatever we want to call it. A lot of men take out their frustration on their wives because of the stuff they grew up. You got to be this way, you got to be that way. So men were never taught how to express themselves, which is wrong. But I'm glad now that men now are starting to get help, humble themselves, because that pride is something else. We hate to admit when we're wrong, but it takes a real man to admit when he's wrong and say, you know what, let me start getting some help. And it don't make you less of a man, but it comes up, man, what they gonna think, what they gonna do. No, it's all about being better. So, then you have anything you want to implement on?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I just kind of felt like it's important for us as brothers and sisters in Christ to not judge each other, and look at each other the way that Jesus looked at us when we didn't deserve it, but he offered his life for us so that we could be saved ultimately. And so, we have to allow people to make mistakes. And I think a lot of times, especially in the body of Christ, unfortunately, people want to play the judge, but we're not supposed to be the judge, right? God is the judge. And so he judges very fairly based on his own rules, or however he chooses to judge people. But what our job is to do for each other is to love each other and see each other through maybe a lens of our own understanding based on, how we would want somebody else to treat us in that situation. And so, being compassionate, being forgiving, allowing people to make mistakes around us. And when we're looking at our children, I'm not expecting my kids to be perfect. I can't put that weight on them. And I think a lot of times what happens is we look at our children and we might put them in the wrong place in our life. Like we want them to, maybe we idolize our children. Maybe we put them in a place where it's like, you have to make it because I didn't make it, or whatever it is. And, when you put anything or anybody in that place of idolizing, it puts them in a place to have like godlike responsibilities, so that now they're in a place where they're not able to meet that qualification because they weren't designed to be that to you. And so if you put your kids in the right place in your life and you allow them to be human, make mistakes, allow them to talk about the things that they may do or they may run into issues in life, and being open to having those hard conversations and working through it as a team, right? Because as a parent, I don't think we're meant to steward our children, but it never said we were meant to like lord over them and beat them down. We're supposed to come alongside of them and raise them and teach them and push them in the right direction, give them the tools and resources. And so, it's kind of hard to push somebody and motivate somebody when you're constantly beating them down. And so, I have like siblings that I've been able to motivate, and kind of like Coach Shay was saying, like I grew up in a household where like I raised my siblings, like it was just me and them. And it was really hard, but I think that, no matter what life gives you, God can still use that situation. Maybe, sometimes he allows us to go through things to be in different, to be strong enough to deal with whatever we have in the future. And then finally, I'll just say that, we need to be talking about some of these issues that we went through, or even some of our kids are going through at a young age, because if we deal with some of the root issues from childhood that people are going through, it'll help with the long-term deliverance that people have to go through. Because I think sometimes we're still holding on to things that happened to us as a child, and it causes us to get to a place where we are maybe we have so much in us that is so deep rooted we don't even know where to start. Like it's like, oh my goodness, how far back does it go, as far as like why I'm acting this way, or why I feel this way, why I'm not able to receive or give love the way that I'm supposed to. But one thing I will say is there is hope. It's not, the world has one way about dealing with the things, but then God has another way. And, God is able to remove some of those layers, and he can remove some of that deep-rooted pain, some of those things that, we may have experienced. It does not have to define us. It doesn't have to be the end of our story. We could literally rewrite our story. We could have a totally different story. But it starts with getting that healing and restoration.
Yeah, that's important. It's all about that changing that paradigm. That's something I'm very on right now. Because we've been programmed on the physical. We've been programmed how to see, smell, taste, you name it. That's how we've been programmed. As a child, we had these wild imaginations. We had these big dreams and these big aspirations. And when we get older, or people tell you you can't do this, you can't do that, and that stuff plays a role on us. Traumatized. People deal with trauma. I got a book on that I've been reading on. People go through have been through some trauma. That's why they do the things they do through the trauma. Not justifying the stuff they're doing is right, but trauma, like you mentioned, stuff that we've been exposed to that we didn't ever dealt with. We got a lot of work to be done, and it's not looking at this person, that person, but it starts with us first. So we have to change who we see that person in the mirror. That first we see in the morning, and the person we see at night, and changing that person because it's real out here, and people be smiling all day long, but you don't know what they're going through once they leave your presence. But really, just to encourage, inspire. That's another thing. If you're in a relationship, you with your wife, your husband, whatever, children, inspire, motivate each other. So we never really seen a lot of that in our community. We never seen where there was a lot of inspiration. Like you inspire your mate. You know what I'm saying? We need to see more of that. You motivate your mate. You motivate your kids. We need to see more of that. We definitely life's empowered, so we know that. But we have to start speaking life into our relationships and ourselves. A lot of people don't say I can't. We gotta remove that word I can't. Because that's the manifest, and we reap what we sow because the stuff that we live is the thought pattern that we display. So we kind of gotta change that whole thing. And I believe God wants to have a good life. He intended for us to have a good life, and that's what it's all about. And not being limited to what the world say. Because the world love his own. We know that. But as being a body place believers and being awakened, because I know we are awakened now, and to really you know what? I just want to be a better human, better person. The Bible says, whom the Son set free is free indeed. And everybody wants to be free, totally free. And that's our goal, to be totally free and be an example. So there's some great dialogue. It's like a whole nother level here.
Yeah. I want to just add to what you're saying about inspiring each other. I know for me as a mom, it's so important for me to teach my children and anybody who even comes around my kids about how powerful words are, right? So words have the power to create or destroy. And so I know I have a 7-year-old, and she's just learning about words and just speaking things out. And so I know I'm constantly telling her, don't say that about yourself, don't say that about your brother, or your sister. And I have to catch myself too, because in this world that we live in, it's so we so flippantly just say things, out of our mouth about, our children or how they're acting, or whatever it is. But I think it's so important for us to use our words in a positive way, because your words can really impact even not just children, but your own self. You can speak positively about yourself. You can speak positively about your spouse, your friends, and those words will go really far, because God created the world with words. When he started out, in the beginning was the word, and blah blah blah. But I just think it's important for us to recognize how important words are, and as we interact with other people and our children, and we're raising children, we're communicating with spouses, co-workers, and the things that we want to see in people, they might not be already acting that way towards us. We can start to speak those things over those situations, and God will, I feel like, eventually create something different. And so I just wanted to say that because what you said kind of put that thought in my mind.
Awesome. And that's what this whole thing show. Whitney, have anything you want to implement for you ready up there?
Now I was going to, when it comes to, I know a lot of people are going to watch it, and maybe people who want to be mothers. I would just say heal before you become a mother. Heal before you become a mother, because I have heard so many women think that having a child will heal them. I've heard somebody say, I'm going to, I can experience real love, or so that I can know, somebody who will never leave me, or whatever the case may be. And that's that they are healed. And I think that it puts a great responsibility on their child at birth to try it will never happen. God heals. So I think that, just putting it out there. Yes, mental health is important, and healing is important. Even before you become one with someone, heal from your past trauma, but also before you take that step into motherhood, if you just heal first, because it is a lot of responsibility, and if you have not healed properly, it'll be a hot mess, so to speak. That's
And I
it.
totally agree. And also from a man perspective too, as well, for men to definitely get some healing, of course. Especially want to be a father, you want to be a husband. Get that healing first, because it's not fair that you take your trauma on your wife. We know a lot of men. I don't say a lot of men. Some men have done that. They take it out on their wife, and your wife is not a punching bag. She's not. She wasn't there. You had to get some help. So, men, get help. Get some healing in your life, so you can be a better version for you and your future family in the long run. It's nothing wrong with getting help. It's nothing wrong with seeking counsel. God said more to the counsel their safety. So counseling is very important. It's safety in counseling. The right counseling, not the wrong counseling, the right counseling. So this whole thing was about healing tonight. So healing is very important. So get some healing. We all working and making. You're not by yourself. We all in this thing together. And I love this right here. So healing is very important. So we know that people go back and say, "I'll tell you what, I'm glad this came up. I'm glad this conversation came up. That's something that I needed to hear." So I appreciate y'all ladies for hanging out with me here on the podcast, of course. It was a great dialogue. But before we get off, so Dannielle, you have any final remarks before you get up there?
Yeah, just for all the moms out there, first I just want to say Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. This job that we have is a thankless job sometimes, but God sees what we're doing, and the kids, when you raise up a kid and they actually come to the point where they're like grown up, and you see the products of your labor, or the fruits of your labor, I think it'll all be worth it. And so, just keep pushing. Surround yourself with a community of people. I think there's so much to be said about motherhood, and just know that you're not alone. There's so many people out there. Don't try to do it by yourself, because I know that there's somebody who will come alongside of you. No kids are accidents. God, he makes a specific decision when he releases a child into the world. And so, if you are a mom, that's a special job that God trusted you, because he decided that you had just the right, whatever it takes to raise that child. And so I just want to say kudos to all the moms. We're all here together, and I just, that's it.
All right, Whitney, have any final remarks?
I first want to thank you for having me on, and it was nice meeting everybody. And I just want to leave with this verse, the scripture from Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8, and chapter 29, verse 15. And it says to lead children to God by praying for them, and be a good role model of faith and character, and training them in wisdom. So that is, to me, like the perfect way to sum up and paraphrase a little bit what being a mother is all about.
Awesome. And that ends on that note. We want y'all to have a great night, a blessed night, of course. Keep the Most High first in all that you do. Matthew 6:33 says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. His righteousness. And all these things will be added unto you." So I want you to have a blessed week. To the mothers, God bless y'all. Even though that the world may celebrate on Sunday, but we celebrate y'all mothers every day. Because the Bible says to honor our father and mother. It didn't say on a particular day. It said honor our father and our mother, and that's with commandment with promise. So we Honor y'all parents every day. Honor my parents every day. That's how I'm blessed. People don't understand. When you honor your parents, that's where the blessings come in. You have long life, you have peace. But that's God's commandment. God don't change at all. He may try to change it, but it don't change. Honor your parents, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care how you feel about your mom, your dad, whatever. You may feel like they don't understand. Still honor them. I remember growing up, if you your parents used to say, if you lie, you cut your days short. My mom used to say that. So that's kind of scary. When you lie, you cut your days short. So Bob, you said be truthful as well. So be truthful with each other and encourage and inspire one another. But ladies, I want y'all to have a great night. See y'all next Tuesday here on Walking This Way Impact World Podcast. Same time on Tuesday, back to our regular schedule. Once again, I give my roses to y'all. I salute y'all. Mothers, y'all did a great job tonight. See y'all next time on Walking This Way Impact World Podcast. Peace.
Bye.